Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Mr. Long Island's Search for Truth and Beauty. My name is Michael Watt, aka Mr. Long Island, and our guest this week is Jean Marie Smith from Destination L.I. Jean Marie, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
As you know, the point of this program is to discuss issues. The beauty of Long Island, the truth, is the issues that would need to be discussed on Long Island, and the beauty of Long Island is there's so many great things about Long Island that really need to be discussed more. So the purpose of this show is to highlight great things that are happening on the island so that we can encourage more people to do more things so that we can ensure Long Island's vitality. So it's a lot for a 22-minute program, but we've had a lot of success with it. So thank you very much for being here.
Again, thank you for having me.
And one of our one of our big fun things that we do is we talk about pizza. And the reason for that is, as diverse as Long Island is, there's so many different towns and communities, North Shore, South Shore, Nassau, Suffolk. The one thing every town in Long Island has in common is a pizza place. And every Long Islander has a strong opinion about pizza. So we're looking for the best pizza on Long Island. And the criteria is if you had friends coming in from out of town and you really wanted to show off Long Island, where would you take them for pizza?
So I grew up in Baldwin, so I'd have to throw out Vincent's, although in the South Shore, which it's not there anymore. So now that I'm in Merrick, I'd have to send someone over to Umberto's.
Umberto's where?
In Belmore.
Oh, there's an Umberto's in Belmore? Because there's one in New Hyde Park, and I'm going to say
Plainview.
Plainview.
Wantaw also.
All right, in Wantaw and Plainview. So
Yeah.
there's 4 Umberto's.
Yeah.
Great pizza, I've had it. I've had the one in Plainview and New Hyde Park, which is, I believe, where they got started. So, so thank you very much for adding to our list. So we're having a lot of fun with that, but it's also, to me, it's just something that sets Long Island apart from the rest of the country. And when you talk to expatriate Long Islanders, the first thing they say, they miss the pizza and the bagels.
Yep.
Ha-ha on them. We still got great pizza
We
here.
still got it.
All right, so now you're the executive director of Destination Long Island, or Destination L.I. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Destination L.I., how it came to be, and your mission, and things like that?
Okay, so we are a 501c3.
Okay.
And our goal, our mission, is to help the residents of Long Island see what responsible economic development can be, what it is, what it entails, try to educate those who may not have the time or see it as part of their mission to go out and see what's going on in their community, who their elected officials are, so forth and so on. So we want to bring it to their living rooms, the web. We have an innovative approach to everything. Social media is our number one platform. So that's our goal, is to working with the residents of Long Island, educating them to be the agents of change as we seek revitalization and economic development.
Okay, you talk about economic development, revitalization, change. I mean, change is inevitable. We seem to be a community dead set against change. But it is inevitable, and Long Island does need to be upgraded somewhat in certain areas. So when you talk about economic development, just give us a couple of examples of what you have in mind.
So things like, and we'll speak about this later, but investing in our infrastructure. Okay. We can't do it to grow as an island. It's not something that, if we don't invest in our infrastructure, we can attract companies here to create jobs and keep our young talent, our minds, our millennial generation, which is at the core of us as an organization, are our millennials. And things like housing, we have a lack of rental stock, which means you're not contributing any tax base, because what you're offering young adults or even empty nesters are illegal apartments or luxury rentals, which, yes, those are contributing to the tax base, but these illegal rentals aren't, so it's not bringing any money, generating revenue to the area.
So we're basically looking at, Destination L.I. looks at different parts of Long Island to see where you might be able to create economic development that would enhance, let's say, a downtown. When you talk about infrastructure, you're talking about roads, bridges, sewers.
Sewers, yeah. And our water usage, energy, of course. So these we're actually outlining now with 12 different engineering firms on Long Island what our infrastructure gaps are as a region.
That's interesting.
So we believe in local, economic development is regional economic development. So some see it as, local is what's important. We believe that it's local to regional, regional to local. They're hand in hand. What benefits Patchogue, benefits Amityville, so forth and so on.
Which is, just to jump in, I mean, historically, Long Island you have 126 school districts.
Yeah.
126 different communities kind of operating independently of each other with no regard to how if you develop something here, it is going to have an impact over there.
Right.
So Destination L.I. is looking to kind of bring all those forces together.
Right. Well, think about our mass transit right now. If you're on the Babylon line, you sit there and you listen to the train conductor say, this will take you to Merrick, Belmore, Massapequa Park. I mean, our mass transit is taking us from town to town to town. So that's what we need to focus on is a local, which will lead to a regional approach for economic development.
And historically, economic development, you had a developer bought 100 acres of property and tried to figure out what he or she wanted to put there, and then they would seek approval of what they had in mind.
Right.
Destination L.I. is looking to kind of change that process a little bit.
Yes, we would. Community buy-in is so important, and actually yesterday I had the privilege of being invited to sit on the during the Nassau County Planning Commission's hearing.
Okay.
And one thing that really caught me that they were asking builders to do when they were coming up to the podium, and there were some concerns from people in the audience I wanted to speak, is please go outside and speak to these people. Comfort them, tell them what you're building, tell them why you're building it, tell them that there won't be a height restriction, so forth and so on. You need to have a process before the plan. Those are the people who are going to come and pose projects because people are scared of change, no matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's their house or the store that's going to come down the street or a new bus route. Change scares people. So if you can bring them in from the beginning and make sure that they're a part of the process and a part of the plan, we know that Long Island will be able to be more successful. And
as part of Destination L.I.'s mission is to bring the public into the process?
Correct. That's number one, absolutely. We encourage that. And our job isn't to do it for them, it's to educate them through it and tell them how they can get it done.
So the idea is if the public gets engaged or involved from the beginning, and they're part of that process, and they can actually tell or share with the developers what they're looking for. Can you walk us through a little bit about that? How does that work, and what are you looking to do differently?
Sure. So there's a methodology called crowdsourcing.
Okay.
So what it is it's basically, kind of campaigning, and what a developer can come to the table and say, I want this. We're looking to do this, and this. And so, a community will maybe disagree with some things and say, we really want some open land preservation. We want a park, we want that. And a developer that can come back and say, listen, bottom line is that, someone's got to make money off of this.
Right.
So if you want open preservation, I can take away this, but I might need to go 4 stories, or I might need to go, might need to build more here. So it's a compromise. It's a give and take.
Okay.
And the discussion is constantly flowing, and it can be constantly flowing again on the internet, like we spoke about before.
So but historically, that is not how things have been done on Long Island, which is kind of why we're in the position that we feel we are.
Right.
And I had a train of thought, and apparently it's somebody's birthday, but okay. So what we're looking to do then is get the public engaged from the beginning.
Right.
And the advantage to the public is they don't feel as if they're getting something crammed down their throat.
Right, exactly.
And the advantage to the developer is what?
Is that their projects are being pushed through quicker. They have more buy-in from the community. They are not left with 12-year vacant lots that they've purchased with the thoughts of building on it, because they're getting opposition left and right. They're now bringing these people on board, and it's a common goal for the area.
And one of the reasons why Long Island is so expensive is the cost that you just described. When it takes you 10 years to get a project approved, that's a lot of tell us a little bit about that, the delays and how that's costly to the developer.
I'm not that familiar with in terms of developer, or, I just know one of the actual reasons Destination L.I. got involved was because it was a group of millennials who said, we want to work to live, work, play, stay on Long Island. And we thought the first step would to be meet with these developers and figure out why are their projects taking so long. And so actually our first step was with Don Monte and Renaissance Downtowns, because it seemed that he was building, more so him and Albany's Tritech as well, were building kind of like those downtown environments, taking an approach where it wasn't just one building or 2 buildings, it was a whole kind of community. And what Don said to us is projects take that long because that's how long it takes on Long Island. You know, you're at hearing and this one gets opposed, so they're delaying the votes and so forth and so on. And then the brainchild of starting this organization called Destination L.I. to help the millennial generation. And what we saw is what the millennial generation needs is what Long Island needs for economic development. So Don graciously is helping us get our feet off the ground, though the goal of the organization is to, you know, of course, have its own wings and fly on its own. And we are developing strategic partnerships with other organizations as well to complement what they're doing. I say it all the time, the Long Island Housing Partnership has this great report out that speaks to what many oppose development is, that it's going to bring in school-age children, it's going to burden our schools. And they have a report that says, very contrary to that, that these developments actually don't bring in school-age children.
You're talking about rental apartments, sure.
Correct. And so we want to use their report for everyone's advantage.
Right.
No one comes into a hearing holding that report up and saying, no, what you're saying is wrong. It's right here, black and white. We need to start doing that together as a strategic partnership so that Destination L.I. can hopefully be that umbrella organization to use everyone's strong suits to everyone's advantage.
And you made a great point in there. You talk about the millennials and what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what the previous generations were looking for was they wanted to come out of the city, the cramped post-World War II. Everyone knows the history there. This generation of millennials, they're not as interested in a single-family home just yet.
No, no.
And I always say, what you hate about Long Island when you're 25, you love about it when you're 35.
Correct.
But how do you keep them there for those 10 years?
Yeah.
So, but the point you made, I thought was great, was what the millennials want really is in Long Island's best interest, because you have to stay vital.
Right.
You have to have a vibrant downtown. That's what the millennial generation are looking for.
Right.
And all Destination L.I. is looking to do is kind of coordinate those efforts so that everybody understands what's going on.
Exactly. And actually our president, Tara Bono, who works for Empower Solar, says it so eloquently, and she calls it bridge housing.
Okay.
We need the type of bridge housing from our parents' basement or our old bedrooms to an apartment where we have our own independence, but are still able to save money to purchase your single-family home one day and to have that lifestyle, with our families and start our own and have school-age children, if that's what we choose. But right now, what Long Island is offering isn't the type of housing where we can save.
Right.
And with student loan debt that many of us are coming out of college with, we don't have the opportunity to spend, the amount of what we're offering as, an island on apartments.
And you're talking about the people who are going to be buying these homes. So, the protests of the people fighting these developments, these downtown efforts, are really cutting their nose off to spite their face, because they're blocking the people who are going to buy the homes.
Correct, someday.
Let's get back to Destination L.I. And you had a launch event last year that was really intriguing. I've been to a million of these panel discussions and the future of Long Island. Walk us through that event. What made it so different?
It's funny. I tell the story back when, before we actually met with Don, and a friend of mine, Lou Imbrodo, who is president of your organization, Links, and asked me to come. And I'd worked with him years ago advocating for the same kind of thing, the millennial generation. And I told him no. I was like, no, I don't need to come. I have a house. I have a job. Long Island's not listening, and we can't do anything. He said, do me a favor, come for me. I was like, fine. And I sat in a first meeting planning for our launch event with 50 other of my peers, people my age, and you don't get many of the millennial generation all under one roof. And everyone was saying the same thing. We don't want to be the generation that's the handout generation, that's seen that all we need is our iPhones and our bags and our classy cars, and that's what we want to spend our money on, and we want everyone to do it for us. But everyone was like, we need to be an active part in our future here on Long Island. We need to be the drivers of an organization like this. And I said right there that night, I was like, I'm in, sign me up. What do I need to do? I need to myself play such an active role. And when the position of executive director came off, my background being a nonprofit, I was excited to apply and get the position. So our launch event was with, I think there was 100 different organizations, businesses, individuals on Long Island represented. And what we did that day was present to them what's happening, nationally, and where Long Island is kind of missing out. In San Diego, Mary Walchuk spoke about her organization Connect San Diego and how they've been able to establish the innovative economy with Facebook and Google and hopefully them bringing it to Long Island. And we presented Destination L.I. and asked them for their support. And I think that many in the room were so, taken back by these millennials who stood on stage and basically told their story of why Long Island is so important to them, why they need to stay here, why they want to stay here, and to ultimately help keep us here and not in Raleigh, North Carolina, or Colorado, or somewhere else. This is where our home is. You've invested in us with your school dollars. Now let us invest back into your community by offering us the opportunity to stay here.
Well, and again, that's another great point. We do spend a lot of money in education. We are investing a lot in the young people, 22 to 35, whatever demographic you want to assign that, and they're leaving. And right now our biggest import is human capital, which is very dangerous.
Number one in the nation.
Yeah, and it's not sustainable. It's not a good thing. But what I found intriguing, I was at the event. Like I said, I've been to hundreds of these things. This was the first time there was a good chunk of people from the future there to discuss the future. And I bring that up because they sent a great message. And the message was, we are committed to staying here, but you got to work with us.
Right.
And the brain power that was on that stage when the 24 millennials, young professionals got on that stage and conveyed that, I thought was terrific.
Yeah, and the other great thing about it is it was a diverse group of individuals. We, as an organization, have created partnerships with the Urban League of Long Island. They have a young professional group. The United States Green Building Council, they have an emerging professionals group, Links, and as well as now, just recently, the Sustainable Millennial Institute. So it's a wide array of young adults coming from all different types of backgrounds who are speaking the same thing. So it's not just, one kind of face to the message. It's many different people who are saying, the same thing.
And diversity is important. And again, it kind of flies in the face of Long Island's history to this point. But it's a key component to sustaining vitality because the next generation doesn't want to live in an area that's not diverse.
Yeah. We've grown up that way. We're kind of blinded to it, actually. We had an event, and one of the comments from someone who was older than us was, I only see one type of person here. And I was like, well, we don't. We don't see that. You do. So, of course, one of our goals is to live in a diverse, neighborhood and to have our children be exposed to that as well.
And it just makes life more interesting, I think. And it's something that...
Variety is the spice of life.
Well, but it broadens your horizons. And I think it's something that it hurt Long Island's evolution. To be as segregated as we are, and I just think it's a real key component, and it's also part of the reasons why I'm so excited about Destination L.I for what that's worth, because they embrace all these things that are so key to Long Island's future. Speaking of the future, you have an event coming up in the fall?
Correct. So our first kind of call to action as an organization is called the READY campaign, and it's an acronym that stands for Responsible Economic Development Initiatives. And what we've done is kind of outlined, 12 different topics and issues that we feel lead to economic development. The slogan is Long Island's Ready. And what we feel at the core of economic development, I spoke about it before, is infrastructure and the necessary investment in our infrastructure to grow as a region. So we are starting with an event on October 20th.
Okay.
And what we're going to do there is we have kind of our goal is to identify strategic and implementable, things and solutions that we can do as an island to change our infrastructure. We want to shed light to how investing in our infrastructure can lead to the economic development in a more layman's terms. I think that the residents of Long Island are very scared when you say investment in infrastructure because they think, okay, how much am I going to have to pay for this?
Right.
But what we want to also show them is that there's funding mechanisms out there. There's private-public partnerships that can pay for this. There's federal dollars that can pay for these infrastructure improvements. But if we want to grow as a region, we need to invest in these things. And you see it maybe in your home that, if you're going to spend $50,000 on redoing your home, you never want your contractor to say, well, you have a crack in that foundation and now you have to spend X amount of dollars. That's not things that you see. So, infrastructure is not a sexy word, and sewer is not a sexy word, but if we can make it exciting to the residents of Long Island, we know that they'll buy into investing in our infrastructure creates the type of places that you want to see. I said before, we're working with about 12 different engineering firms on Long Island, and what we're doing is mapping out what our gaps are. We actually have a meeting on Tuesday with them discussing water and sewers, and we know that Nassau County has a sewage system, and Suffolk not so much. So how do we grow in Suffolk when we have all this ample land available to us without investing in the sewage usage there? Things like the next step will be our transportation, and we actually started to map out our Long Island Railroad and our bus service and how we use it here on Long Island. But what we found, which is astounding to me, is that only 4 of our largest employers on Long Island are accessible by our rail.
Wow.
So what you're saying to our employers and our employees is that you have to get in your car to get to work.
Yeah.
There is no, transit options, and only one hospital is accessible by our rail, and 2 colleges, and they're not even 4-year institutions. One is a graduate program, and the other one is a 2-year trade school.
Wow.
So you're limiting yourselves as a region and ending up attracting these companies here because of your lack of transit options. And so we've also brought in a company called the Site Selectors Guild. And what they do is they're responsible for 85% of the nation's relocation for different companies. So when companies like Arrow call them up and say, it's too expensive for me to do work on here on Long Island, where can I go to elsewhere to make more bang for my buck? And they'll do they'll do feasibility studies and figure that out for them. So what they're going to do is come to Long Island and do, an assessment of our region and tell us what we need to do to someday, attract the companies, to our side and do the reverse. Since we haven't in at least 60 years brought in a company with 500 employees or more, which is crazy.
It's a major problem for the region. And I spent, as you know, 6 years running the Long Island Partnership. My job was to work with site selectors. And somebody once pointed out to me, he says, technically Long Island doesn't exist. There's no government of Long Island. There's plenty of government.
Right.
But there's no mayor, there's no downtown Long Island, there's no focal point. And as a result, we don't show up on radar screens. If they say, give me a region of 2 million people, and the site selection doesn't know to combine Nassau and Suffolk, we're not going to show up.
Right.
And that's a big part of the problem. And the irony is that Long Island has so many resources.
Oh, it does.
And so many great people. And I think that's really the most exciting thing about Destination L.I. is the brain power that's working. And you alluded to earlier, these young people who are committed to the region. They understand it's flawed, but they also understand that it's worth the effort because it is a beautiful place to live. And I think it's a tremendous reflection on the people who started Destination L.I., what you're doing. So I think it's great for the future of our region. I think your mission is terrific. I think your diversity, I think, is so key. For what it's worth, it's a great thing that you're doing. And I'm very grateful for you as a Long Islander, as somebody who's vested in the community. The website is
DestinationLI.org.
Okay.
You can find us on Facebook as well, Destination L.I., as well as Twitter at Destination L.I. And anyone can, reach me. My contact information is on the website.
Okay.
And I'd be happy to tell them more about us, what we're doing, get them how they can get more involved. I'm very easily accessible.
And the takeaway from this is Destination L.I. is looking to bring everybody in under
Correct.
the tent.
Correct.
Everybody has a voice.
Yes.
It doesn't mean everyone's going to get what they want, but I'm a big fan of the power of people sitting around a table talking to each
Absolutely.
other and working together, which
Yeah.
would be a Long Island first.
Absolutely. We're so respectful of what other organizations or business or individuals are doing, and we don't want to step on anyone's toes. We
Right.
want to work with them and complement their efforts for our two main focuses, which are the millennial generation and economic development. And who doesn't want to see those things flourish here on Long Island?
And just to reiterate, what the millennials are looking for is really key to ensuring the vitality of Long Island.
Absolutely.
So what you're doing is terrific. I appreciate your time
Thank you.
today.
Oh, thank you for having me
and
again.
your insights are wonderful. And good luck with everything that you're doing. Good luck in October. I think that's a great endeavor. So it's all good.
Cool.
This has been another episode of Mr. Long Island Search for Truth and Beauty. My name is Michael Watt, a.k.a. Mr. Long Island. I thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Jean Marie, thank you.